right, Shalom, Shalom. Hey, I want to give all praises to Yahweh Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai Ba'Hashem, Ruach HaKodesh. I want to say apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. And peace and salutations and blessings to you sincere brothers out there pushing the truth across the four corners of the earth. Hey, I just want to elaborate real quick. No, just a quick one on the whole term Middle East, because one of the things that people like to use as a defense, we talk about the Lord being, so-called black men. The scriptures tell us that. And then, of course, the apostles all being so-called dark-skinned men. And pretty much, going back in the ancient world, we know all people were, a certain shade of brown except for Esau. And people like to basically try to use that as an illusion for the truth. And when we ask them, what did the Lord look like? Well, they first off, they never wanted to give the attributes of his skin color. And when we tell them, well, look, the scriptures talk about skin like brass burnished in the oven, hair like wool. Well, he was Middle Eastern, he was olive color. Then we go into that. What color are olives? You got green olives, you got black olives, you got brown olives. So it's hey, the truth is the truth, all right? Which truth in the Hebrew is amath. Amath. All right, I'm going to just go straight in because we know, hey, these Christians are backwards, confused. You got Esau with his false science. We had a guy come to the camp. He didn't have good discernment skills going into science and stuff. And that's one thing that separates us. We're able to filter things in our daily lives, and you filter the things that you read and you see using the scriptures, the word of God. And that's what the scriptures are set up for. This is the term Middle East, though. It says Middle East, the term was coined in about 1899. It was never defined in a generally accepted way. Early use with reference to British India. Later, often of everything between Egypt and Iran. There you go. So later, often, and this is a phrase that was coined by Esau because Esau was in the West. Esau was known as the West. Between Europe and the Americas, it's known as the West. And we know, of course, all civilization goes back to what? The Middle East. What Esau refers to as the Middle East. You had the Tower of Babel. You had all the nations of the earth actually at the Tower of Babel. Back then the whole earth was one language of one speech, which was Hebrew. All right, this is the language that the Most High breathed into Adam. Okay, then all the nations came together. Verse 4 is going to tell you, go to, let us build us a city and a tower whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. Right. So, then the Lord broke that up, showing you that the Most High is about separation. He separated the languages of men. He broke up the languages of all the other nations, but amongst his chosen people, he preserved us. We believe that today we have that language, the Hebrew, the pure tongue, the Lashon HaKodesh. Let's see. That should be in Genesis 1 or Genesis 2. Okay. Yeah. Yep. And in Genesis 2, it tells you about that. It tells you, actually tells you where that garden was. That's Eastwood and Eden, which we know. It's going to go into the rivers. It's going to go into, Ezekiel. It's going to go into the Euphrates, which is talking about the Tigris River and the Euphrates. So we know that so-called Mesopotamia, the Fertile Crescent, is that's basically the cradle of civilization. Okay, when Esau wants to go and find out about things, and they want to go and dig these different sites, this is the place where they go to. All right, and it's only one cradle of civilization. It's only one. Here's another one. It said, "What's in a name?" It says, "Why is the region named this way? What is the middle? What is it in the middle of or near to?" Because a lot of people like to attribute Middle East to talking about versus Africa, but Middle East is not an ancient term. Middle East is a relatively new term, as we just looked up. It is the proximity of these countries to the west, to Europe, that led this area to be termed the Near East. Ancient Near Eastern art has long been part of the history of Western art, but history didn't have to be written this way. It is largely because of the West's interest in the biblical Holy Land that ancient Near Eastern materials have been regarded as part of the Western canon of the history of art, right? So these Edomites basically have an infatuation, and of course you had Jake, who was scattered off to the west as well, but it's Esau's, under his system, they were interested in that land, and so they coined that the Middle East versus China and all of that stuff, which is the Far East. All right, and this Esau knows basically. He knows they've looked up the history. They've gone to the sites. They've actually dug in the sites, found the different tablets and the Moabite stone and all these different stones to prove that these things were here. So when Jake is talking about all this Egyptology and Africa stuff, Africa has some vast history too, but ultimately everything started here, and Jake doesn't want to get that. And many scientists say Africa, but usually when they say Africa, they say Egypt. But then many scientists say the cradle is they say this region, the Middle East, which we know also through the scriptures. Babylon was there. Then you had the different cities of Sumer, Akkad. So it's just a quick one on the Middle East. That term is relatively new, and it's generally something that was coined by Esau. All right, so when you say Middle Eastern, everybody comes from the Middle East. Ultimately, we all come from the Middle East. So what I'm saying, what people from the Middle East? Let's get into it. What people in the modern day who were once in the Middle East are you talking about? So that's just a quick jump over that spiritual hurdle. Hey, call Allah Yahweh Yahweh Shah, Lord willing, edify, Shalom.